going on, everyone? Welcome to the Nerd Room's ToyStream Live, our escape from the everyday into the world of toys and collecting. I'm one of your hosts for this evening. My name is Tim, and I'm joined here by my brother in collecting, Ian. What's going on, man?
All good, man. All good. I'm just excited to talk
Yeah.
toys. It's been a minute, man. It's been a while. Lots of things happened. We had the whole big Christmas holidays, and I know we've been really busy. So it's nice to be back here chatting with you, and hopefully a couple of other people later on. But yeah, happy
Man.
times.
Well, it's always good time chatting with you. Always good time chatting toys. It's been an interesting start to the year for sure. The end of last year with the holidays and kind of the slowdown with the 6-inch figures that we've all been talking about, the expensive toys really weighing in on our ability to expand the collection. I would say most of us are in a contraction piece or time with our collections, kind of really debating where we're going to go next. And we're actually going to get into that. We got a kind of an exciting stream to discuss this week, or discuss the exciting topics here, because we're not only going to talk about what we've picked up in January out on the hunt, but we're also going to talk about our forward-looking plans for collecting in 2023. This is something that most people are perpetually revisiting as they look at the rooms, as they become claustrophobic with what's sitting around them, as they feel a little tired with what's on their shelves, and they start to look elsewhere for where else they can focus their efforts, their money into what makes them happy. Because collecting ebbs and flows, my man. It is always changing for me. I was an in-box, hard, modern collector, and now I'm an out-of-the-box vintage collector, I should say. And we're going to kind of get into all of that today, as well as talk about something that's become a more recent topic of discussion, particularly between yourself and me, with regards to an 80s icon in E.T. E.T. has become this like weird focal point for me ever since you and I started talking. You got me kind of hyped. I've got some actual unboxings to do today on some figures. And so it really took a hold of me, and it kind of fit really nicely with this vintage piece and kind of the ever expanding nostalgia end of how I collect. But man, let's get into it. Let's just jump straight into it. Welcome to those that are watching on the live stream, to those that are watching the replay, and those that are listening on the podcast feed, as we are going to drop this directly into it. And so we like the visual aspect of YouTube, but we also like to drop this in for the listeners to get a different flavor inside of that podcast feed. And so we hope everyone enjoys tonight. But man, let's talk about it. Collecting in 2023. January, first month is behind us. And I got to be honest with you, man, I had a pretty solid month. It's been very, very quiet for me for 6-8 months, but I probably had my biggest month in the better part of half a year this past month in January, kind of walking into 2023. I've stabilized a little bit, figure out what I want to do. And the first thing I'm actually going to show off is I've gotten really back into kind of Lego collecting, and just like organizing and trying to do a few builds. But one thing I found that I thought was really cool was, didn't know this existed, was in the Lego store. And they have these like this minifig set from the Infinity Saga. And it's just like a handful of minifigs that I built. And it was like on sale for like $15. And I thought it was like a really cool way to expand my my minifig collection, because this is my minifig collection here. I'm going to show you. This is just the heroes, but that's my MCU minifig collection.
Wow, nice.
And they did those like those packs last year where you got like the Disney Plus characters and all that. And so I've really enjoyed doing the minifig stuff. Lego is expensive though. This was pretty decent. But it's a cool way to get like Korg and Valkyrie and Chitauri
nice.
Soldier there.
It's something about Legos. There's like those little minifigs. Like I kind of moved away from Lego just for the idea of when you kind of display it, it kind of collects dust, and
yes,
it's always a hard one to look after. Like, they fall off your shelf and it's kind of game over. But yeah, it's always like at Christmas I always tend to get something Lego. I got the let me try and grab it.
Yes, I love bringing new stuff in. There you go.
Here is James Bond's.
Oh, cool.
What's the car? DB?
I don't know, man. I'm not James Bond.
But yeah, just like it was just a little thing that I got in kind of stocking filler, and just to open it up and put them together. It's always fun, Lego. There's something really cool about it. Even like when my kids get their little minifig packs and you don't know what's inside and you kind of
Mhm.
rip them open.
Yeah, those
Something
blind
about
bags
those
are
little,
awesome. Like that's what
yeah,
a lot of these all these Disney Plus ones were blind bags. And you can see the top row there. You can see like that Loki, the White
wow.
Vision, the Scarlet Witch, the Captain America.
So you
It's
don't get any duplicate? Do you get like duplicates of
Oh
those? Or
yeah,
do you
like
guys get
I had to buy. There's I don't know 6-figure minifigs, and I bought like I don't know a dozen or so packs of
Mhm.
them. You do like you get the blind bags, and you're kind of feeling around, and you can kind of feel stuff. Like you could feel the Falcon's wings in there, and so you knew what was in there. Uh, you could feel I think Scarlet Witch's hair. And so yeah, but I end up getting duplicates, and there's a bunch from What If as well in that line. So yeah, minifigs. It's I kind of it ebbs and flows for me, Lego, because like you, I enjoy the builds, but displaying stuff is very hard,
Yeah.
and it can get really expensive too. Like I'm down to a handful of sets a year. I just built this MCU set actually too. This is
Yeah, that's a
the
great one.
the mini
Baby Groot.
Groot or the young Groot from Volume 2. And like this is these 18 plus builds as they're called, or these adult focus builds with they usually have like the black boxes in that. I
Yeah.
love them. I think they're phenomenal,
But
and
they're pricey though, right? Yeah,
they're so
some of those.
pricey.
The
Yeah, and they
Optimus
just
Prime one, like I saw that on a
oh,
shelf and I was picked it up. I'm like, man, I'm gonna get this and put it down. Howdy, I'm like going to the staff. How much is this? He was like a Lego pop up, and he told me it was like the price of a hot toy. And I'm just
that's
thinking, like, what? Like
uh,
a Lego
it's
set?
yeah, it's nuts. These helmets, you can see the one behind me, the Iron Man. They were
Mhm.
originally I think around the $60 mark. 60 $70 mark, and there's a Star Lord one that they just announced that'll be coming out alongside of Volume 3,
Mhm.
and it's upwards of $100 for it.
Wow,
Like
yeah.
I'm gonna get it, but holy man,
And
it
they're
is
only like
expensive.
about this big, right? They're not like it's not like
Yeah, they're not
they're
huge.
not
Here
full
I'll
size.
grab, you can see just for scale, like next to my head and in my
Yeah.
hand, like I'm a normal sized dude, and it's not huge. Like they're small, they're great builds, but
Yeah.
expensive, man. So, yo, what's up? We got Lost in Comics in the chats here as well. What's going on,
How's it going, Chris?
guys? Here for some collecting, some ET talk, and we're going to be actually joined by the Gathering of the Geeks boys. Emma and Chris are going to drop by for the ET talk in about 20 minutes or so, and so we're gonna kind of zoom through our pickups here and look forward. But Ian, Lego is something that I'm kind of focused on right now, amongst many other things. What's 2023 looking like, and what's something you've kind of grabbed that supports that forward look for you?
Yeah, well, I'm like you. Like I'm all over the place with the collecting. Like I've gone up and down and here and there with different things. Like I was, big into statues and vintage stuff like long time ago, and then I jumped onto the kind of 6 scale stuff, the 6-inch stuff,
Mhm.
the 1/12 scale. Then I went over to the larger scale stuff, to the kind of hot toys going up to a 1/6 scale, and it's kind of you guys in that the kind of community that we belong to with the nerd room that kind of got me back into the smaller stuff. But now, man, like, Christmas time came, and I think, just because I couldn't go home again this year, last year, Santa decided to spoil me a little with bringing me a lot of nice little figures and toys and stuff. And it just became this overload of all these
Mhm.
figures that I'm opening. I spent most of January not buying stuff, but just actually opening stuff. And it's now just got to a point where it's kind of a bit out of control. And I look around, I just feel like, some shelves look a bit cluttered and some
Mhm.
look a little bit unorganized. So I think for 2023 for me, like I'm starting to scale back and maybe start with the smaller scale stuff. Maybe even sell some of it. I think I kind of got a bit carried away, and then maybe move back towards the 1/6 scale and the hot toys. So yeah, I kind of got a bit lucky with the hot toys. A couple of things popped up this month. I don't know if we can see it there because my microphone's there. There is a Mando. It's here. Maybe if I
Yeah,
can
I can
turn
see
that
it. Yeah.
onto sharp mode. So here's the Chrome version of the Mandalorian. Um, And I missed the pre-order on that. And the Hot Toys store, Toy Sapiens, contacted me and they said they had one and wondered if I wanted it. But it was like the deluxe one. I didn't want all these extra pieces. I didn't want the deluxe version. But yeah, I kind of went with that and got that. And then this one came the other day. I found this new store which sells Hot Toys at a great price. And let's get her on. So
Ooh.
here we have Bo-Katan Hot Toy.
Whoa, that's sweet, man.
And she's great. I don't know where her helmet is, which is a
Is her hair color a little off? It looks dark.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I'm actually gonna put this helmet on, because I do love that helmet. I don't know why they went with the dark color on the hair.
She has like red hair though, doesn't she?
She does, yeah. I think that's the biggest complaint with this. Like I saw reviews and everyone's kind of loving this. The detailing on the thing on it is beautiful on the armor. The body that they use isn't great. It's kind of like a single joint in her arm, so she's not very great at posing, which is a bit worrying when it comes to kind of Bo-Katan, who you want kind of flying through the air and stuff. But she looks great. But yeah, that hair, like I think the head sculpt came off better than I was expecting. In hand, it actually looks better. Some people are saying it looks a bit like John Cena.
No, I don't see that. But the hair, it immediately jumped out to me.
Yeah, and I wonder if there are any people who've done any customs work, because it wouldn't be such a hard thing, especially if you're kind of good at painting, just to put a coat of like a slightly reddish tint on there. But yeah, I was super excited to kind of get that. Like I did really want to get the Mandalorian, but I do already have the previous release, so it's just kind of like an upgrade. But this was one that I was really looking forward to getting. And then this then led to me picking up another Bo-Katan purchase, which let me get this just because they're related. I'll tell them to get that.
Whoa. You get a stream in that, dude. Is that what series? Where is that from?
So this is the Hasbro Black Series.
The helmet,
helmet, and it's from of course the Mandalorian one. But it's really weird because like some stores are selling this for a crazy price, but Amazon had it on there and they had it, so I think it was 27% off and nobody was buying them. And then they dropped the price again, and then they knocked 20% off the discounted price. And it just got so cheap. It was like more than half price. So I picked it up, and this came a couple of days ago. And yeah, like I've got some of the other helmets at the top there, but this one, for some reason, it seems like they've put a lot more work into this. Just the weathering on it is really good, and the tint, like on the blue, kind of changes throughout the helmet. So it's this was another exciting pickup.
That's cool. What a piece. I've seen people do comparisons of I think the most recent Boba Fett one from the Black Series from Hasbro to like what would be traditionally like a higher end helmet, and they're almost indistinguishable, the two of them, with the amount of weathering, like you said, the focusing on the detailing on those things. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's good what they're doing. The Boba Fett, I've got the Boba Fett one up there. And it is good. It is good, but you can tell sometimes with the weathering, like the silver and stuff, you can see how it's kind of painted on. Up close, it doesn't look as good as maybe a custom one. The Bo-Katan one, I don't know why. It just seems they've done a little bit better. Like they've added scratches, and even like the silvers have got darker shades in it, so it actually looks like it is a real, a real blaster mark and stuff. So it's really cool. So I do like that one a lot.
Right on, man. Right on. Well, you spoke about 6-inch figures there, and that's something that, like, as you said, as we got to know each other, and there's like always this influence back and forth with regards to what exactly we're all collecting. And 6-inch has always been, since about 2015, has been a big piece of my collecting. And what up, Sergio? Good to see you back, man. Great show this morning. What's going on, Phil? But 6-inch has always been a big piece of my collecting, and I'd really shied away from it more recently, like in the last 6 months. But something came across discount. I've been buying a lot of Marvel Legends, or I had been in the past, unboxed, and so you get them for like half price, because Marvel Legends are insane price up in Canada. Like they're closing in on $50 a piece Canadian, which is expensive. So that'd be like upwards of 30 plus in the States and that. But I was able to get like 4 awesome figures here. So the first one I'll show here is I was able to get the redone Winter Soldier.
Nice.
And so this is an update from 2014. They did a Winter Soldier, but what they had used was like the comic buck, which was thinner, slimmer. The head sculpt was okay, but not super great. Like this one is phenomenal. There's another head kick around here somewhere where you got like the Bucky Barnes, like you got the Sebastian Stan head sculpt. Like these
That
are
does look really good.
These are
Yeah.
phenomenal figures. These more recent ones, and then you've got the M'Baku, which came out in the Legacy line. Again, phenomenal head sculpt with the M'Baku. Just crazy. And then I've kind of made this rule for 2023. I said, okay, for Marvel Legends, I'm only doing MCU Infinity Saga figures. But you know, sometimes you got to break rules. So when I draw on that line, it was kind of after Loki, it was after Multiverse of Madness and all this. And so they had recently came out with a few more Loki figures. I said, okay, I'm cool to continue with the Loki figures. I really like that show. And they'd come out with some ones from season 1. And so I got the classic Loki there, which is really cool figure too.
Yeah, see that one. I saw that. I did see that one in a Toys R Us, and it was the price was insane.
Yeah, this was $45 here, and I got this for about half price. But $45 is what it is up here. The cool thing about this one is you see the hands, like there's hand. Like this is like right on his hands. So and so you can see like the molded plastic right on the hands there to kind of give it this like really cool look of what he's doing. And then you've got a head swap.
That goes with 2 heads, yeah, right.
Yeah, like another head, more stoic look head. There, which is great. And then you get like little hands that pop on for proper hands. And then this is another figure I had to get. He Who Remains, Jonathan Majors, another phenomenal sculpt. You can see that. Like these are crazy good figures. And because he's gonna be such a major player in the MCU going forward, and Quantum Mania coming up here in a couple weeks, I could not resist grabbing this figure either. So trying to fill out that Loki line a little bit. And I just recently bought the last shelving unit to go behind me here that I'm going to fill out the wall. So I'm actually going to be able to get my MCU Marvel Legends up. I've got like 120 some odd figures in that line. And so it's nice to kind of be able to pick and choose some of the stuff now. And that was one of the big things, putting rules. As a collector, we're always kind of putting these rules and constraints and then subsequently breaking them. But my point with putting the MCU Infinity Saga, it's where I was, of course, the most invested, but it allows me to pick and choose a few figures a year because they're not doing a whole bunch from phases 1 through 3 anymore. And if you want to see what's missing, you can actually go check out a YouTube video just chucked up on this channel, the top 10 missing MCU figures from phases 1 through 3 that I think should be made in these legacy line, the same legacy line that they're reissuing. Like this was a Build-A-Figure originally. They've reissued it as like a full single purchase figure, which is great too.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's the MCU, man. It's I'm excited about it, and I'm excited to be back into the Marvel Legends game. I can't stay away from it. It seems I've really
Legends is one I don't know where I stand with it now. I just don't know. Do I keep going or do I not? Like I do have like a shelf up here of just Legends, and I kind of stick to the comic book versions.
What's your boundary though? Like, is it just comic book, or is it like, are you in the Spider-Man universe, or?
Well, it's usually things that I've read or think characters that I like. So I try not to buy things. I don't get random figures that I've never heard of unless it looks really cool or I see a kind of good review of it. But it got to a point like here they were already pretty expensive, and it's just so hard to get hold of them now. And now, to be honest, the figures that I have kind of make up majority of what I would say are my kind of main figures, the characters that are kind of more invested in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I do see some of these live action ones, and I think like, do I want to buy them? Because some of them look great. Marvel Legends, it's sometimes there's a complete miss, and they do release things that are just total trash, and they still charge the same amount of money. But some of them are just so good, and the head sculpts are really great on them. I picked up the Wakanda Forever Shuri, but it doesn't come with a head sculpt. But it's a very basic figure, and I think I paid more than I should have considering what it comes with. But it just looks really great on the shelf, and there are nice little details.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like I can't hold back sometimes, but I feel like I should have a bit more focus, especially
Yeah,
with
the
those
focus is always
legends.
tough. It's always tough, and like especially in the 6-inch scale, because you've got Marvel Legends, you've got Black Series, and you've also got NECA, which is like NECA is almost impossible to resist, and I couldn't this past weekend. I ended up grabbing another Back to the Future NECA figure. This is from Back to the Future 2. And this 35th anniversary line, I guess we're well past the 35th anniversary now, but that's kind of what it was originally pointed at. And this is the Doc Brown from Back to the
You know
Future
what?
2.
That is a great figure, man. I've seen that in store, and just like looking at the NECA, the detailing on the NECA is just so
Crazy.
good. The amount of accessories that they come with, and for the price, and they're really, really kind of hard, well made,
Yeah.
sturdy figures. But that is a really good one.
Yeah, you can see like the emergency cache in there, and like you can open that and it's got like the cache, and you've got like the newspaper in the back. You've got the little camera he uses at the start, some head swaps, like 3 head swaps, or 3 heads, I
Yeah,
should say, 2 head swaps in there. This big yellow coat. I've got the Marty McFly from Back to the Future 2 as well. I just finished the Lego Back to the Future, the DeLorean. And even inside of that, you can do Back to the Future 1 DeLorean, 2, or 3. So you can put the Mr. Fusion, or for 3, you can put all the stuff they put on the hood for Back to the Future 3. And yeah, you can't, these figures, they're expensive. Like these are up, actually, they're not too different from Marvel Legends now, to be honest with you. Like these are traditionally up in the kind of $40 to $50 range here in Canada. I had a gift card to a place, and these were 20% off, so they actually came out pretty reasonable, to be honest with you. But I've just been kind of picking at these Back to the Future things. I believe there's a Griff that's available as
there is.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you can see at the bottom there's a Griff Tannen as well, and I've got the other, like including this one, I've got the other 4 on the back here: the Doc Brown and the Marty from Back to the Future 1. They haven't done any Back to the Future 3 stuff yet, which is interesting. I don't know if it's if they've announced it or if they plan on doing it, because that's always kind of like something that kind of comes and goes with NECA. They do these things in kind of slow and steady ways, which is nice. And
they do re-releases as well, like reissues. It's kind of
yeah,
weird. Like I bought like a whole Alien line, and I thought they were great figures back in then. They were cheaper than they are now. But they re-released a lot of them. I think they released actually all of them, and just with updated head sculpts, and like the paintwork and the detailing on the face now is just so much better than it was before.
yeah,
I've got
yeah.
mine like right down here now. I just don't want to look at them because I've seen these ones that just look so much better.
It's it's crazy, like how far NECA. I would say that if I was going to knock NECA for something, even in the last like 3-4 years, when it's like the Turtles, which you've got behind me there, when it's like Alien, when it's Predator, when it's anything that is kind of alien like, there you go. There's the last one that just came
thing
out too.
is, I mean, this was probably what my figure of the year last year,
Yeah.
and that's a NECA. The amount of accessories this thing comes with is insane. It's such a beautiful, great looking figure.
Mhm. Yeah, but the problem is like, and even I'll pull up the Marty here. Like this is the Marty from the Back of the Future. So this came out a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago, and I would say that's an okay face sculpt. Like it's good from angles, but it's not perfect. And I would say that
How
this
would you rate
seems.
this one? How would you rate?
Ooh,
Who do you think this is?
is that who is that?
Well, the fact that you
It's
don't know
is it
is probably a
from?
little problematic. This is
Is
The
it?
Last of
I
Us,
was gonna say it's The Last of Us, right?
Ellie. So this is, yeah, but I mean, this is The Last of Us 2, so you might not be as familiar with the face. I pre-ordered this, and when I opened it, I wasn't exactly blown away. It's nice to have because I know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as you said, like sometimes this is like a double set. I've just killed Nitiri. But
Okay, yeah.
this was Joel. Of course, this isn't Pascal, so it's the game version.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say it's spot on. I think, as you said, from certain angles you can see it, and then other angles you can't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you on that. Sometimes
They're
they're
getting
not
better,
quite
and
there.
like Black Series was this way too. If you look at the original Leias that came out, the New Hope layout, actually the one that I've got right there in the case, it's horrendous. Like it looks like a porcelain doll. It looks nothing.
Yeah.
And then they re-released it with a much better head sculpt. And the Luke in there, actually, those whole first ones aren't fantastic. So it's the head sculpt, the face sculpts have come a long way in Marvel Legends, Black Series, and even NECA is really stepping up with this. Like this Doc Brown looks really good too. It's
Yeah, I saw a Kurt Russell,
yeah, it's so
the
good.
Thing from the Thing, and that was probably one of the best head sculpts I've seen that's in that scale. Like
Mhm.
it's such a good likeness, but just again, like the little details on it. You know, it was much better than anything I'd seen from like higher range stuff, such as like the Mafex or the figure arts. So yeah, I think they are stepping up their game. I think when they release them once and then they kind of work on them and improve them next time, they tend to be, you know, it's a big
Yeah.
step up. When
Well,
they
it's so
release
hard
like a
too
new
because
figure, that first one is sometimes a little
it,
iffy.
it's so difficult because sometimes you want to play the cooler on these a little bit. Is that you get like these initial figures and they're not good, but they drop them later. Even like the build a figure stuff, like I was saying with the Winston Duke M'Baku figure, like this is a very difficult figure, or was a very difficult figure to get in the build a figure because you had to buy a whole bunch of other figures, and some of them were harder to get in the Black Series line. But this one they re-released it as a single purchase figure, and they did that with an Ultron figure, and they've done that with a few others. Vulture, they did that too, and so you kind of gotta wait and see on some of these things. And usually those first figures are concept art figures too, and from
Mhm.
Marvel Legends and not so much Black Series, but Marvel Legends, and so they're not screen accurate until you get like a second release of them. So you see there, but Ian, you got anything else to show off? Oh, sorry.
You don't know, but the only thing is you don't know like whether
Mm-hmm.
it's good to pick them up or not with NECA. Because the thing is like the turtles, like those turtles came out and you know they became so popular that it got to a point where you couldn't get them anywhere.
Yeah.
But like the last Ronin one, like I rushed to get that thing, and it's a great figure. But now stores have it here like on sale. Like you
Yeah,
know
I've seen it on
they've
sale
knocked him
too.
down, and you know people aren't. I guess it's not as familiar as the character. But sometimes you know those figures do come out, and especially when they get positive reviews. You know if they pop up on YouTube and stuff, like sometimes they're impossible to get ever again.
Yeah,
Like I want the Secret of the Used turtles, but I don't think I'm ever going to be able to get those
you'll
things.
get them. NECA's really good at re-releasing figures, and so they don't let the secondary market kind of own the figures, which is kind of nice. Where the turtles, like the ones I've got behind me here, I've got two sets because I bought a second set for the head sculpts. The first set I had to buy at secondhand, and they're really difficult to get for quite some time. But then they re-release them in single packs. They re-release them in double packs, and that's what we're going to do with the Secret of the Use. You're going to see them in a double pack as well. And so NECA is really good about that. Getting subsequent waves that like these Back to the Future figures were hard to find for a little bit, but they're pretty plentiful now. And I think that NECA is also found its way into bigger retail stores over the last couple of years too. They're not just in specialty comic book shops or specialty shops. You can find them at Walmart, you can find them at Target, you can find them at Toys R Us. They're just in a different section. They're not in the
Mhm.
toy section. They're in like a collector section, at least here for Toys R Us. And so it makes buying them a little bit easier. And so I don't get too concerned about any modern figure, to be honest with you, anymore, unless it's like a Celebration exclusive or an SDCC exclusive. Then you might need to grab something like that, or like a Loot Crate exclusive. Sometimes you get some of those NECA figures inside of those. And Ian, you look
Mhm.
terrified right now.
Terrified? What do you mean?
your face is just like like you're like, oh my god, I gotta get these figures. Like I need the Secret of these figures right now.
No,
But
I guess for me it's different. Like where I live, just because you know, I guess everything's mainly imported.
yeah,
So it sometimes depends how popular they are elsewhere, whether the stores want to get them in. And some of these stores is insane, like how much they price them up, and in other places, you know, they sell them at really reasonable prices. So it just depends on you know who's releasing them and how popular they are, how easy they are to get hold of.
yeah,
Because the
exactly.
secret, the used ones, they actually, I think they before they announced them, before they released them, they said they're gonna make these widely available. Like everybody will be able to get these.
Yeah.
And now you've seen them on eBay for like 3, 4 times the price.
Yeah, just wait it out, man. Just wait it out. Like that initial pack, like they came out with that like video, that VHS copy pack.
Mhm.
That'll be hard to find, but you'll be able to get those figures eventually. And they're really just head swaps and slightly different paint apps to the first one. So
Yeah,
not
to be honest, it's probably better if I can't get them. It's just
well, yeah, you don't want
sometimes I just think like I want them, but it'd be nice if they don't come here. Just save me some money.
save you a few bucks. All right, man. Well, let's before we start talking to ET here, is there any last things for you for 2023? You know, like I said, like Lego, Marvel Legends, and kind of sitting in that vintage space is where I am, and that kind of leads us into the ET thing. But is there anything else for you for 23 before we get our guests? We jump our guests back up on here and talk
I
some
guess
ET.
not. As I said, mainly for me, it's mainly just like I'm going to go to the larger scale, to the 1/6 scale. I think probably scale back on the smaller stuff, just because it's just nicer to kind of display them. It's easier. You don't have to buy as many of them. One thing I'll probably get into a little bit more is also statues.
Nice.
I know Carlos is kind of big on the statues, so I'll probably be asking him for a lot of advice. But the good thing with statues is I think me living here with it being so humid in the summers and so cold and dry in the winters, I'm always worried about, are these figures going to last very long? Kind of fake leathers, the pleathers and stuff, or the paint application on the smaller scale stuff. Good thing with the statues is, they're posed.
Yeah.
They're kind of really sturdy and
Static. Yeah, you don't have to worry about
static, and
joints.
I'm not gonna have to worry about them. I got like let me see if I can grab this thing. I think people
I love it, man. I love bringing it. Yes.
seen this, but this guy,
dude,
let me move that over. This thing from Star Wars Visions,
that's insane. I've never seen that before.
is probably this is from Code the Book. Yeah, it's the artifacts line. This was really random because it's sold out everywhere. I remember seeing it on display in the store, but it actually had a big sold out sign. And this was another one, like Amazon. Amazon just knew, like they basically sent me a recommendation, and it was so cheap. It just seemed like they were trying to get rid of some excess stock. And
That's
yeah,
wild,
I
man.
mean,
Look at the detail on that. Holy, look at the size of the cape. So this is one of the Sith from, I don't know what episode this is from.
no, he's not. He's not a Sith actually. He's actually one of the good guys, isn't he? I think it's the very first episode. So he
Yeah, I was gonna
fights.
say he's got a
But
red lightsaber.
he's like a samurai. He does have I think, yeah, the whole show's kind of black and white, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he has the lightsabers are red. I don't know. I can't remember what happens in that episode. Does he say he's not a Jedi?
I don't
just
remember.
has
It
the
is one of the
lightsaber?
best ones though.
Yeah. But again, like this was actually one of the most exciting things I've opened, and it was just really just a big surprise for me because when I opened it, the shock of just how detailed it was. And it's
Big.
just so nice to put together. It's kind of like a Lego piece where you just popping things on and clicking things in, and it kind of steadily comes together. And once it's complete, you're like, whoa, look at that thing. It's
Look at this thing,
insane.
man. That's wild.
Yeah.
It terrifies me how many breakable pieces there are on that.
But the thing with the cuttable artifacts, this is just, it's like hard plastic.
Yeah, okay.
So it's actually
not
really,
brittle.
it's not brittle. Like this thing will fall off my shelf if there's a earthquake, and it'll probably survive a lot better than the Hot Toys or the smaller scale, especially the Mafex. And but yeah, like it just made me think, like, statues aren't such a bad thing because you can't pose a hot toy like this.
Yeah.
And
I guess, but for your environment too, like you're saying, it's pretty important that you're not having things they're getting damaged by humidity or like, it's crazy. Like I live in a spot it's pretty consistent. Like it's dry as, like there's no moisture here, so I don't have to worry about mold or anything like that. But man, that's so cool. Yeah. So statues moving away from the 6-inch, like I'll tell you, it has been one of the most cathartic things I've done for collecting in the last year is I've sold a lot of stuff and nothing that I would consider super valuable. It was stuff that I had picked up between say 2015, 2017 that just was kind of like Star Wars and MCU fodder. And I just had no place for it. I didn't display it. And I said, why am I holding on to this? It's just sitting in a bin in my storage area. And so I started selling stuff and I'm like, okay, this is funding. Like I sold stuff and I bought 3 shelving units with the stuff I sold. And I've been buying like all my figures and everything I've been buying. I've been using just recycling the money. And so it's been a kind of a cool way to refund my nerd room and my collecting by taking stuff that I would have no plan on ever displaying, has no sentimental or nostalgic value, and just pitching it, selling it, and then putting that money directly back into the nerd room.
Yeah, that's good. I think, I mean, I've talked to you guys about it with the selling. Like, it's a little bit harder here for me. And there's some stuff that I've tried to shift and I can't. But it's definitely a good idea. And I do think I'm going to do the same thing, especially with the Marvel Legends.
Yeah.
Some of the Maffex, they're not, they some of them actually increase in value. And I'm not trying to make a profit. I'm just trying to get what I paid for back from them. But yeah,
even a little loss is better than like it just collecting dust or whatever if you don't enjoy it, right? If you pay $30 for it and you can sell it for 25 or 20, even 20, I've kind of just said like let's just kind of get the stuff moving. And sometimes we got price stuff to move. And so before we transition here, so we're gonna go over and talk about something that that kind of fits in this like new collecting space for me for 2023. And I didn't realize until recently how big of an ET fan you were either. And so it's kind of inspired me quite a bit on this front. But I just want to give a shout out to Phil. What's going on? He's like he said, he's had some neck of luck over at Target. What's going on in the chat there? Sergio, of course, is back. He was back on his stream this week, so it's good to see Sergio back from House of Nerd. He's talking about that Ronin figure as well. He's familiar with the comic book. Jeff, what's up? What's going on? Talking about the last Ronin figure too. So everyone's in the chat here. Throw in what you guys are collecting, what you guys are planning for 2023. But let's talk some ET. And you and I have been talking quite a bit about ET, and it's been something that has like this real nostalgic piece in my heart. But I've never really collected ET before. Cookies in the chat as well. What's going on? And so I kind of found something that like got me going, and then I've just kind of snowballed from there. But I mentioned ET to our friends over at Gathering the Geeks, and both of them were like, "Shoot, we love ET." And I said, "Like, let's talk
Chris only watched ET last month."
And so I said to the guys, I said, right after your stream, they just finished their stream, so go over to Gathering the Geeks, check out the stream. They talked about comic books. There's a lot of fun. The chat was a riot. It was all going there, but we said jump over after your stream if you guys got the time. And so we got these guys coming over. So we've got Chris and Emmett from Gathering of the Geeks. What's going on, my boys? We've got nerds. We've got geeks in the room. How are you guys doing? Great stream tonight.
Thank you. I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Oh man, talking toys. I'm here with my boy Ian. We're crossing. We got 4 different time zones on the stream right now.
That's right.
So it's everywhere between being too late for a Sunday night to being already Monday morning. So guys, Emmett or Chris, why don't you guys take a shot here while you're on the stream? Like this is both for our YouTube channel and for our podcast too. So why don't you tell the people that are listening, that are watching on the replay, what you guys are all about before we start talking about some ET figures here and ET in general.
Emmett is better at that. Go ahead.
Emmett, give her.
Chris and I host a podcast and YouTube show called Gathering the Geeks. We do a live show every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern, where we just kind of ramble on about what we read and what we watched that week. Sometimes we have a topic, but most of the time we don't because we're awfully lazy with most our planning most of the time. But
we had graphics tonight, though. We had
video graphics. Yeah,
they're pretty fancy. Yeah. Even Chris
That's what I told
was impressed. You could see the look.
I told him earlier, we're fancy tonight.
So we're pretty casual fans about lots of different things, and we obviously often try to put a positive spin on lots of different things, which we find is very enjoyable to do so. So Gathering of the Geeks, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, so hook in, go get those guys a sub. Plug into the podcast here. We've got our boy Zeddy in the house. Look at that. Look at that. The Flash. My one of my box office picks there that Zeddy's been trying to get off me here. So
poor Zeddy.
He's talking about the amount of money he's going to.
Can't get over how often he brings up that he doesn't have Mission Impossible. It's just sickening. Like, oh man, we get it.
That was painful to watch. Painful to watch.
I made him a little Fast 10 poster just to try and make him feel better.
That was good. Yeah. I think it worked. I hope it did.
Yeah.
Well, we all have to see Wonka for Zeddy.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I'm not seeing anything. Anything that's on my list, I'm not seeing it. I'm just not paying for it. I'm not adding to the totals. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, we had our fantasy box office pool. It's on this channel on YouTube. It's also in our podcast feed. We can listen to myself and Carlos and the boys from Vigilante 1939 do a huge draft for this year where we're picking our films, and it's about domestic grosses here. And so we've got a whole bunch, a lot of fun over there. So go check that out. But let's talk about ET, boys. Here, look. So Ian and I, we started chatting about ET previously, and I got thinking, like, ET came out in 1982. It's like a Spielberg film. It was a box office juggernaut. It's iconic, but it's not something that I ever had figures from. It's a little bit before my time. I was kind of in the later 80s collecting Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles, and E.T. had kind of come and gone by that point as far as his theatrical run and even the toys. And so I personally have never seen a lot of E.T. toys, but Ian and I were chatting, and I was in there's a shop here in Calgary where I live, and I'm just going to play this video here. And this is kind of what really got me going about E.T. This guy had a huge E.T. collection. And so we'll go into some of this stuff, but like I was looking at this and I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, this stuff is amazing. It's so 80s.
That's a lot of Atari.
Yeah. Well, do you know the story behind this Atari? We're going to get into this Atari here.
80% Atari.
Yeah, geez.
It's actually, to be fair, it is a secondhand video game store. But the significance of these Atari games, and I'm going to buy a handful of them, is this was apparently, I've never played it. Apparently it was like one of the worst video games of all time. And it was difficult to play. And what they did with these, there's so many of them left over. They just went and put them in a dump. All these games in the boxes and everything, just dump them. So we're not dealing with these. We're not paying for storage. And then in 2014, there's I think it's called Atari Game Over, maybe. There's a documentary. They went and found them and dug them up from a landfill, and then they started selling them. Like, you get these for, like, depending on the condition, like I think they're like $7-8, but like it's a little cool piece of nostalgia that sits in there, and it's got like this really weird backstory that they were all inside this like dump, this landfill, because the game sucks so much. But it's funny because it's like one of the most, at that time, one of the most successful movies. And then you've got this game, you've got this console that's pretty new, and the game just sucks. I guess I have no idea. I've never played it, but like when I look back,
have you seen it? I mean, it looks bad. I don't think I ever played it. I think I had an ET game on the Commodore 64, but I don't think it was the same as the Atari one. But it does look. Yeah, it does look really, really bad.
I don't even know what the premise of the game would be. Like,
well, I mean, like the graphics back then were terrible anyway. But it's it's something that resembles ET, and it seems to be kind of like
it's like a base square.
Yeah, it's like a base square. That's exactly what it's
square
like.
That moves.
Well, that's kind of what started the conversation. It kind of got me thinking. Okay, I should I start collecting ET like Spielberg? It's of that era, and I went digging through my my VHS collection more recently, and I found this. Like,
wow.
This is very well used. Like, this is something my dad and I watched a lot, and like the iconic green top to this. I don't know if this is everywhere.
Yeah.
But like in Canada, this is like the green
That's
top.
the one I had that one too. Yeah. The
like,
green top.
And it's just like beautiful, like this box. Like,
Wow.
I love that it's so beat up too. Like, this is like my personal one I took from home during the pandemic when I was there. We drove out. I said, I'm taking all my old VHS, and that came. And I love having like collection pieces and like VHS I use as accents for all this. So Ian, we kind of started this journey, or you've been well on the journey before I kind of hopped in, but what's the connection for you in ET? In both like kind of that nostalgia and then, extend out into the collecting piece of it.
Yeah, well, ET was a funny one. I guess I think I've talked to you about this before, but like ET, I always say, when people ask like, what's your favorite movie? I always find it a difficult question to answer. Like, it depends what mood I'm in, or it depends what I want to watch at the time. I wouldn't really say I have a best movie or what is the best movie, but E.T. is something that I probably would say is my number one movie of all time. And it's not just because I think the movie's a great movie. I think it's a perfect movie, but it's the experience that I had with that movie as a child. I think it's the first movie I ever saw in a movie theater, which is a big one. And it's something that I just really remember. I remember watching that in the movie theater. I remember that whole experience. It's also the first movie that I remember watching at home with my family, and it's the movie that my parents so often talk about when it's something that's related to like how a movie affects you emotionally. Like, with my oldest daughter, when she was young, I think the first movie I actually saw her watch and sit down and enjoy was The Iron Giant. And just seeing her emotion when the Iron Giant flies, her getting upset at the end, just seeing her go through that experience. And my parents always say that that's the one, E.T. is always the one that they remember that for me, me crying my eyes out at the end. And it's burned into my brain. It's something that I always remember. I always had that love for E.T. I always knew that it was going to end badly and I was going to be distraught. But then I knew I could always return to it. And I remember the videotape that we had. I remember the toys that I had as a kid. I had this kind of like pleather E.T. Toy which started to fall to pieces. I had these little the spaceship that you could kind of pull back and go forward.
The little round one, yeah,
little round one. And there wasn't that many toys around back then, so like anything that you could get, any E.T. Toys that you could get were really meaningful. So for me, like E.T., I love everything about E.T. Like it's just something that just brings back really good memories. I try and surround myself in this room. Like I've got E.T. I've got like ET cushions. I've got what's Gertie there and Elliot on the back of my chair here. But yeah, it's just something that if ever I think about it, if I even talk about certain scenes in that movie, it kind of makes me well up, makes me really happy. So I feel it's the movie that I've got the strongest connection to out of any other movie.
Yeah, man. Like Zay's saying here, it's no one does this like Spielberg. Like you go through the 80s into the 90s, like some of the best movies of all time have got his DNA and fingerprints all over them. And E.T. is kind of at the start of all this, right? It's not the start, but it's close to. And it's just phenomenal. Now, Emmett, when I said we're talking E.T. here, you said, all right, I'm in. You're 2 hours ahead of me. And so it's a Sunday night, it's late already. What about E.T. kind of got you saying, hell, I'm going to jump over to the stream and I'm just going to keep going?
Well,
what's the connection?
It's a lot of what Ian is saying, but like the connection for me is that VHS tape, Tim. Like the VHS tape when I was growing up was everything. Like even like in lots of different VHS tapes. Like I'm thinking about like Batman '89, like the iconic cover. Like there's something about VHS tapes to me that is very iconic to me. And like my dad bought VHS tapes when I was younger, and they just kind of were in the house. I never, understood him coming home with a new VHS. Like, oh, we've got something to watch. Like it's just like it was always there, and that's what ET was to me. It was just always there. Mm-hmm. It's just always there if you need to watch it or if you need to experience it. And then throughout my life, that's what I do. Like, it's just if I want to watch ET, I want to feel. And like Ian is saying, it's a feeling. That movie is a feeling. Mm-hmm. It's more or less an experience the way you go through it. And I like movies with kids in them, and I like them on both both spectrums. There's the hopeful and optimistic nature of ET, and then there's the more pessimistic way with something like Sleepers or Stand By Me. Like the idea of being young forever when you're a kid is always something that really is interesting to me. And the idea about ET of Elliot and his overzealous optimism and his no fear is always something that I strive towards as a 35-year-old man. Yeah. Like if I could be Elliot in ET my whole life, I would do it. Like the kid is just like never backing down. I love that's something I always think about as a kid, and my kids are getting older. Like Elliot's, demeanor and his preserve for never backing down and never saying no and never being scared of things that can be quite scary for a young kid like that. It's just like it's the everlasting nature, and that's why the movie is so perfect. Why it is one of the best of all time, and one of often people's most favorite movies, because of the everlasting nature of the honesty and the optimism of a child. Of the youth, the youth of this world are eventually going to save us all, maybe one day. But the idea of Elliot is a beacon of optimism, is something that's attracted me to E.T. And the movie's just a lot of good fun. It's got, it's done a ton of Star Wars references in it, which is a lot of fun. And when you juxtapose that to like Phantom Menace, when you see ETs in the movie, it's like it's kind of a cool relation, a pop culture experience. And that's the other thing. It's just it's a pop culture phenomenon. Like Elliot on his bike over the moon. Like that's an iconic moment.
Everyone knows that.
Everyone can think about exactly.
Spielberg's company uses that as their like. You see that emblem, like at the start of so many movies here, and it's funny. And like one of the consistent things in here that I'm seeing just in the chat too, from Sergio and Zeddy, and it's the idea, like you're saying, of this concept of VHS, and it's something actually, or at least the tapes themselves. Like you've got things like E.T., I would say Jurassic Park, the Star Wars trilogy, of course, the box set, Batman '89. Those are ones that like everybody had, and they're films that you like. Look at the condition of this thing, like it's worn to pieces. And I was laid up this weekend, and I have millions of hours of content at my fingertips, at my disposal, and I'm scrolling through Netflix and Disney Plus and all these things, and I find that things are just so disposable now, and I couldn't figure out what to watch. There's nothing I wanted to watch. I'm a huge MCU fan, but I had no desire to go back and rewatch any of those movies. But like, what are the movies that I will go back and rewatch? I'll put on the background: E.T., Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, Star Wars. Like these movies can just like they're almost kind of like the films. And I don't know if it's a generational thing, but it just.
I don't know if it's. Do you think it's because we get too much these days?
I 100%. Yeah, like there's nothing that.
E.T. I saw E.T. in the cinema, which was crazy. Yeah. Like, I mean, came out before I was born, but I actually still could go and see that in a movie theater.
Yeah.
So
well,
like,
just nothing. Films... Everything is disposable. Like that's how our lives are set up. Your computer doesn't work, you get a new one. Your printer doesn't work, you get a new one. Your car doesn't work, you get a new one. We got a comic book movie this week. We're gonna have one in 2 weeks. We got a new. You know what I mean? Like and there's just so much of it that it just becomes kind of that thank you next, or it becomes disposable. And that's, I think, like these VHSs, and I think what we'll talk about here in a few minutes is some of these toys, is that even toys these days, there's just, my kids got 1,000 toys, and I don't think they like any of them, to be honest with you. Like it's really funny where I have like this, like such a strong connection to, a couple of these different franchises that I would say kind of define my childhood. What about you? What about you, Chris? Talk to me about E.T. here.
Okay, so like Ian mentioned, I just discovered this movie. I had never seen it when I was a kid, so I don't have the attachment that you guys do. I was aware of it, probably more just because the character, like I'd seen the character and stuff, advertisements, whatnot. I rode the ride at Universal Studios, but I didn't know what it was. I was like, why are we on a bike? What is this? So years went by and people kept talking about it. More recent last year or so, it became a thing. Why haven't you seen E.T.? Ian was one of those people. Why have you not seen E.T.? And so I finally broke down and watched it. I want to say October or November. I don't remember. By the way,
did you watch it? Did you go to see it? Because Zeddy's just saying they did an IMAX release last year, because last year was the 40th anniversary. So did you see it in theaters or did you watch it at home?
No, I was still at that. I'll get to it. It's on my list phase that I do. And then
yes,
it came to a point where I was like, okay, I have nothing else to watch anyway. E.T. happens to be on a streaming service. Let's get this done. And I fell in love with it instantly. Like, I know you guys had the emotions as a kid. As an adult, I was in shambles at the ending. I was like, why does E.T. gotta go? Why can't Elliot go with him? Or something like that. It's just, I don't think age matters with this one. It is just so special. And Steven Spielberg knows how to get you. Whether it's with a T-Rex that saves the day unexpectedly, or an alien that likes candy, he gets you. He gets you captivated and reeled into his world. And like Emma was saying, Elliot is such an amazing child character, because normally these characters in movies are not as well-rounded as that character was. They're mostly one note. It's just, okay, this is my alien friend, and that's it. We're going to be together forever. Life is great. This kid had an understanding. E.T. can die. E.T. gets hungry. E.T.'s got to go home. He had an understanding, so that was cool. But also, like, Drew Barrymore in this movie is amazing, too, for being so young.
Yeah.
And have you guys seen the story she talks about on a recent, I forgot what talk show it was, maybe it was her own, about how Steven Spielberg made the alien, the puppet keep going for her?
Yeah, it's a great story.
No.
She didn't realize E.T. was a puppet. She thought E.T. was real on set.
Whoa.
So between takes and stuff, she would go to the puppet, and Steven Spielberg realized that, and he would instruct the puppeteers to make E.T. move and speak, so that the illusion was never broken.
The puppeteers were always on set when she was on set. It was crazy, yeah.
The illusion was never broken for her. Very cool.
Oh,
But,
I learned a thing actually. I only learned it very recently with E.T. that I didn't know. Did you know that E.T. Spielberg filmed that whole movie chronologically in order?
Really?
Oh, really?
He never. So usually with movies, you film whether you're on location and whatever. He made sure that he filmed the whole thing chronologically, so that the kids grew up with E.T. So they spent time with E.T. So the end scene where there's the goodbye is the real goodbye. They never saw E.T. after that point. So they spent this whole time going through these scenes with E.T. and E.T. being part of all their film sets. So then at the end, basically the kids were told, like, this is the last time you're going to see E.T. Like, this is a real goodbye to E.T. So that's why it feels probably so genuine, because they'd spent probably like a year or more filming this thing and seeing this character and become a big part of their lives.
That's
and then
so
this
cool.
was their goodbye to it. And he apparently he did that on purpose because he wanted to capture, the children's emotions and everyone's emotion on set, saying goodbye to E.T. and not being able to see him again. So I think that was
even
really
sadder.
Well, the good thing, Chris, about ET specifically is that there's literally hundreds of toys that you can recapture those emotions and preserve some of that, not only with just the VHS, but we were lucky enough to go through the 40th anniversary. Now, that was last year in 2022, 1982, of course, to 2022. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff that recently came out. And so there's all these like accessible ET toys right now that when Ian and I started talking, I was like this is perfect because this is going to fit on the shelf nice. And one of the things that I want to get at some point, because Zeddy's mentioned here, is this Universal ride. I got to get some merch from that Universal ride because I rode that when I was a kid as well. And the things that were coming out more recently. So for those that have been watching for a long time, or for those that are new, I'm a Pez collector, and this is something that came out this year that I was pretty stoked at getting. Is these really cool Pez. Like, you've got one with the hoodie on, and then of course kind of like the plain. And now I'll probably keep this in box because this is kind of like at the 40th anniversary box. You can kind of see right there. But again, kind of I walking in stores and you're seeing like ET merch on the shelves again. Yeah. I was like, this is freaking cool. And then it starts, right? You get down the rabbit hole, and you get to the next thing, and this is where Ian, you and I have been talking a lot about kind of this more recent stuff. And you can see over Ian's left shoulder there, you can start to see his collection. You got like Funko Pops that have dropped, and then this is something that I got for you, Ian. Not for you, but I got. Oh, show this one off. This is a recent thing too, right?
That's
this
cool.
is that's cool.
You think. But yeah, this was a NECA.
that him on the bike over the moon. I said like
that's another one where I'm not sure.
They've hidden the face.
Can I get the face on there?
There it is.
E.T.'s all right. Elliot, not so much.
Hey, he's okay. He's okay.
He looks close enough. It's a kid. It's a kid in a hoodie.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a NECA piece. But speaking about NECA, so I grabbed the Ultimate.
You one up me, man. Look,
this isn't. This is just the Ultimate. This isn't the. There's the one with the light in it. I didn't go that high. So this is just I think it's the same one you got. So that's the same one this is I picked this up this weekend. Nice. And so you've got ET, you got the Speak and Spell, you've got the plants, of course, hand swaps, you got a blanket that goes over them. And so this goes again, I was showing off the Back to the Future thing earlier. There is I can't remember what they call them. It's an ultimate, but like an ultimate, where actually there's like an LED in his chest and you can push it.
I decided against that because the LED, when it's off, it kind of looks darker. So it doesn't look so good on display.
Yeah, you can see the line. There's a line on his chest, actually, you can see.
Yeah,
it didn't look as good.
Like, it comes with like the umbrella and all those extra equipment and stuff. But I just thought like if I get that, it's just you're gonna have to display it all. I like that one better because it's more the iconic scenes, you know.
Exactly, and with the speaking spell and all that.
The sheet on, yeah.
And I thought like with NECA, like this will come out of the box for me. You know, my plan is to take a few things like these Pez, the VHS, that NECA piece, and kind of just have a small little display in my nerd room, and kind of like what Ian's got there. And I'm just gonna pop up actually because there's I'm just gonna add. So these are a whole bunch of the toys. These are like the 80s toys, and I've also been looking at this stuff, being like, okay, do I need to get into this? And I kind of want to have an accent piece or two, but this is the kind of the main license holder was LJN, which if you guys have heard that before, it's probably because of the big rubber wrestlers. So this was preceded that. But there's a couple of like really cool pieces here. Like do you have any of these, Ian? I know you have some of the stuff back home.
Some of the stuff back home, yeah. I think on the list there is I still have it, the spaceship. It's not the launcher, it's the kind of pullback one.
I know exactly which one you're talking about there. I don't know if it's on. I don't know if LJN did that or not. But it almost kind of looks like a McDonald's toy.
Yeah, but I think most of the ET stuff did. Like everything was really small scale. Yeah. All of those ones, the card back ones, are really hard to get now. And if you do, they're just destroyed because there's no kind of cover on the actual card, so they're falling to pieces. And the plastic is kind of yellowed on a lot of them as well.
Yeah, there's that NECA throwback that they did. The most iconic one, I think, that you can find this one pretty easily loose is this guy with like the big. It looks kind of weird with the big red thing on his chest.
That does look weird.
It's like something in a doctor's office.
Yeah, it's funny though because like when you look at ET, like when you have that like connection to the character from the films and that, but when you look at it, he's not like it's a pretty ugly thing, right? And so like merchandising this kind of ugly alien, like it's very endearing to me, but I could see how people would be like, maybe that's not quite for me. There's a few like I'll probably end up getting like one of those like LJN, and then there's like one other like weird plastic ones, and then there's of course like I had on the on that video, there's the big stuffed animals too you can get, and I think those are probably a little bit more popular because they're not as accurate to how kind of ugly the ET actually was.
Yeah, I think it's in that I told you about it before with the visual dictionary, the history of ET, and apparently like Universal pitched the idea of these toys to so many companies, and everybody was just no.
Yeah,
like,
Hasbro turned them down,
it's ugly, it's scary. Kids aren't going to want to play with this. And I think it was like only Toys R Us were the only company that at first said, you know, we'll actually start selling some of these toys.
It did pretty good. Like the LJN stuff did, I think, reasonably well at the time. You got to think that coming off the back end of Star Wars, and so your Star Wars toys are starting to wane. I guess they hadn't got to Return of the Jedi yet, so you're kind of in the midst of it. So kind of the worst part, actually. But there's stuff that's out there. Like I looked locally on like Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace, and there's stuff out there. And so there's some nice accent pieces to be had there. But it's when you think of iconic toys of the 90s, though, ET is not one that jumps out at you.
No, I didn't know there was so much ET merchandise until more recently. I knew about the game because I'd heard the story about the bonfire and everything. I'd heard that. But I didn't know there was so many toys and different things like that. Like Ian has pillows. I didn't know those existed.
The blanket on his back there.
Well, this was at some store. Some store had this blanket. There was this one, and there was another one. It's like this pink one. My wife got them me for Christmas, like these blankets. And there was like Christmas decorations. So you had these baubles. And she knew how much I liked ET, so she started to pick up all this stuff. But I don't think it's something that's kind of readily available at lots of different stores. It was just like a kind of collaboration, I guess. Yeah,
like Jeff's saying here. The speaking spell is coming. If I could get my hands on like an 80s speaking spell, I would definitely put it in the display. Like, I think it'd be so cool. Absolutely.
I think the things that stood out for me as a kid was the lunchbox. I think the lunchbox is one of the most.
You got one of those behind you, don't you? Or at least a
well, no. This is not so good, man. This is just like a re-release thing that came out recently, but it doesn't look vintage. It looks very new. There is one that's really famous one. It's like a really old print. I've seen some people putting pictures of it on Twitter. But yeah, I think the lunchbox was one that, a lot of kids in my school had that lunchbox. It's something that people are kind of reminds them of the movie.
Yeah, the lunchboxes were cool, and the stuffed animals, that was something that you had, right?
Well, I'm trying to get this book. This was the one I had. This one, can you see that?
Okay. Yeah,
so
yeah.
he was like,
he's friendly.
Yeah. That's much nicer.
Yeah,
he looks much nicer.
looking.
But he was made of like this really thin kind of pleathery material. So, you kind of take him to bed and you wake up in the morning and you just got these little brown pieces like stuck to your
those
face.
things never, That's hilarious. It's the yellow one you're talking about, right? The yellow lunchbox?
Yeah. There's what's his name? Neems? Jurassic Park Neems. I've seen his display recently on Twitter and he has one. It's like a yellow and I think it's Elliot and ET together, but it's like a really old kind of cartoony picture of the
it looks really good. I'm trying to find, I was going to share it here, but I can't find my ability to share screen. Oh, there it is. I think I've got it here. It's this yellowy looking one. I've got eBay up. So if you want to do a live buy, Ian, we can do that. They're only about $100.
Wow. Okay. That's not so bad.
So there's some cheaper ones there. I got the thermos as well. I love stuff like this. Like this is the type of stuff, like if I'm hunting in a vintage toy shop or whatever, and I see something like this, like I almost always walk away. And I don't have like a huge connection to this, but I think it just speaks so much to the time about like these things. And there's this, this dinner tray too pops up once in a while on, you can kind of see it on the top right there. As dinner tray pops up once in a while in the secondary market too. It's like, do I need to buy an ET dinner tray? I don't know.
Sure
like I've been trying to like shed things, and I'm like, well, maybe I'm gonna buy this lunchbox or this.
I mean, you can never have too many trays.
This is true. This is true. You need to bring back dinner trays.
I think we do. I want a Batman one.
But Ian, is there anything last things you want to say here about ET? With things like with NECA and anniversaries, we got the 40th year, 10 years. We're still going to be live streaming, so we'll be able to talk about the ET 50th anniversary. Who knows what they're going to come out with? But
the sequel.
Is there anything specific that you'd like to have or want, or when you do get back home, are you gonna go up to that attic and kind of pull everything out and bring it back home to Japan?
Yeah, I guess so. I think like you've kind of inspired me a little with your vintage collecting. We were talking about it the other day with the turtles, the Super 7 turtles against the vintage ones, and I think I'm starting to think, when collecting's to kind of chase that feeling, and I think that's why vintage is a good route to go. So I probably will go up in the attic and see what I can find. Some of it actually I do have in my old room. I don't know if it's still there now. But they're just like those kind of little pieces. Yeah, but there's a lot of it is still quite hard to get hold of. I'm surprised that I think I did see that it went on to the IMAX for the 40th anniversary last year. But yeah, it didn't come here, and that's something I'd love to see. I'd love to actually experience it on the big screen again.
Yeah, well, that was where I went to university. There used to be some small theaters that would periodically play things like E.T. and Jurassic Park and all these things on re-release, and so that was cool. You don't see that as much anymore. Those little theaters are hard to come by, but
they sometimes do. Is it the ones with the concert as well? It's like you go and watch the concert.
Oh yeah,
and it's the music and you watch it.
So
that'd be incredible. That'd be so
the John Williams score, man. I think that won Oscar. E.T. won the Oscar for best score for that year. So, but as we wrap up here, guys, we've got Gathering the Geeks. Really appreciate you guys jumping over here, chatting some ET. Emmett, Chris, any final words, and then also plug what you guys are doing. Every single week, every single Sunday. I love plugging into the chat, hear what you guys are reading, what you guys are watching. You always keep me on my toes because I'm like, oh shoot, I'm so far behind and everything. I feel like such an old man because you guys are just like boom, 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 just hitting everything. So Emmett, download us a little bit on I guess what you're looking forward to in 23 in any of the space or whatever. Just kind of give me something here to kind of close out.
Well, there's a lot to look forward to this year, and that's what's exciting in variety of different things. So Chris and I just talked about the DCU slate. There's variety in the DC slate. You know, there's variety for TV and for movies and video games and lots of different things. So that's what I'm looking forward to is variety and, you know, finally getting some stuff that we've been waiting a long time for, specifically in the DC stuff. You know, I wish I was into toys. You guys, I watch you guys all the time. I watch Tim. I watch your room stuff. Ian, I love watching when you go to the stores in Japan, and it's just like it seems like otherworldly to me in toys. Like I have a hard enough time buying a comic every week. You know, $4.99. I can't imagine the money that you guys spend on toys, but it's the passion, man. I love the passion of toy collectors, and that's something that I'm envious about. So I appreciate your videos and your show and all that kind of stuff. So that's also what I'm looking forward to this year, is to see more of your guys' stuff, because I can live I can live my toys through you guys. That's good enough for me.
I love it, man. Chris, man, appreciate you jumping on here. Any final thoughts on ET or what you guys are doing over at Gathering the Geeks?
Well, thanks for having us first. Yeah, ET, I'm glad I watched it finally. I really am. It's something I'm going to
take it off
revisiting
the
often.
list.
Yes, it's off the list. I enjoy it. Looking forward to watching it again. As far as looking forward to stuff, I've been really into the Universal Monsters from NECA, and
Yes.
I am waiting for my Dracula to come in. They sent me the Big Bad Toy Store sent me the email. I am checking my email every 20 minutes or so to see if it shipped yet. I want my Dracula. And you know, as far as like other toys, I love the McFarlane Dark Knight line they've been showing off. We just saw the
that
Bane
is
yesterday.
killer, eh?
Yes.
The Bane, the Build-A-Figure Bane, that whole line looks great.
That Dark Knight, I told this to Carlos, that Dark Knight McFarlane Joker, it looks better than my Mafex Joker. Seriously. It's so
and it's
much
like
better.
what, a third of the price?
Yeah, maybe less.
It's crazy. That line, that Dark Knight line is crazy. They just announced.
Beautiful. So I'm waiting on that, and of course my Mafex Pattinson. And then, you know, it's Flash season. We'll have some more stuff to buy, more stuff to throw the wallet at. And looking forward to that. And movies, got a variety. I'm with Emmett. I'm looking for the variety, and also getting to share that with all of our community.
Awesome. Awesome. I absolutely love it. All right, Ian, we're about to close out here, brother. You got any anything to close off the stream with?
No, not really. Just thanks to the Gathering Geeks guys for popping in. It's great to share the screen with you. I know, try and pop into your show every week, and it's definitely something I always look forward to. Always a good chat and a good group of people in the live chats as well. So yeah, it's great to share the screen with you guys. So thank you for popping in. And yeah, as in terms of excitement, I mean, it's the same. I'm excited about all the new things that have been announced. I think this is going to be a crazy year. Like, I mean, this is going to be insane. And you've got months where you have like 4 or 5 big movies coming out in 1 month.
That's crazy.
So it's mad. Like, we've got Last of Us. I'm going to jump on that as soon as I get out of here. And then that's going to go straight into Mando, which I'm just so excited about. So it's just going to be never ending. So it's going to be a really crazy year. So it's going to be cool to have these shows and chat geek stuff, chat nerd stuff with you guys. So yeah, looking forward to it.
That's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be such a year of consumption of TV shows, and then building on all that experience and expanding it all with the toys. It's gonna be something else. And so, like, I really appreciate everyone jumping on here, into the chat. We've got, you know, Jeff and Phil and Zeddy and Sergio. There's Cookies around, and thanks guys for jumping in and having a blast with us. And you know, Zeddy just got to get one last promo out there for Fast X trailer. You know, he's really counting on you guys for the box office fantasy draft. So if you have not experienced that was a lot of fun. Go back into our last live stream, which was a couple of weeks ago on that. And then for us here at the Nerd Room, myself, Carlos, and Ian, you can find everything we do over the nerdroom.net. Please give a sub to the channel. Check us out on Podbean or Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you plug in there. And check out the podcast every single week where we're talking everything Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and beyond. This week's actually going to be, this stream is going to be dropping in there to give a different flavor of things, and we'll be back at it next week. And you can, all our links for everyone's going to be, I'll dump them in the show notes for this as well. I added on to it. So appreciate everyone dropping in. spending Sunday night with us, talking some toys, talking some movies, films, some nostalgia. It's all good. So with all that being said, on behalf of everyone on the stream here, on behalf of the Nerd Room, thank you guys so much for joining us on ToyStream Live. And we will see you guys very soon.